Oh, good morning. Oh my goodness. It is January 4th, which means that today is the first day of our Goal Getter Challenge. My name is Dave. Hello, welcome. Every single day for the next couple of weeks, we're gonna jump into community together and we are going to have a conversation about how to pursue a fantastic 2021, how to preemptively identify the things that might in fact get in our way so that we can actually keep them from getting in our way. Every day we are going to unpack, a chapter out of this old book here, Get Out of Your Own Way, so that we, in thinking about how to do a little bit of that thoughtfulness around what might actually show up, we, in fact, can preempt those things from stopping our momentum. Are you with me? Hello. Good morning. So today, first day of the challenge, if you do not know what I am talking about, well, I am telling you right now, there is a free challenge that is happening every single day for the next 2 weeks. It is, like I say, totally free. And every single morning around 7 a.m. Central, you're going to get an email from me where you will, in that email, have a 20-minute or so coaching on the topic of the day. Inside of that email, it's going to allow you to click a button. It'll take you right to the video. It's going to, again, every single day be a theme that we will then jump into this live, have a conversation, and hopefully with a bunch of like-minded people, have some community around the thing that we are inevitably talking about. Today's topic. So by the way, if you have not yet signed up, sign up anytime. You can have access at any point during the challenge. The link to actually sign up right there in my bio inside of Instagram. I will actually paste it into the feed for anyone and everyone to take a look and jump on in. But today's topic, the conversation of the day, is the idea that the things that have worked will not be the things that will work. If you have a vision for your future that is different from the past that you are coming from, then the playbook, the plan, the ways that you approach the past, they are not going to be the things that are going to actually unveil the world that you would hope to have unveiled. Because if you deployed a plan in the past, you got the results that that plan ultimately was designed to produce. And so if you are thinking that you can just hold on to what worked in the past and that it is going to afford you a different kind of future, you are kidding yourself, right? What worked in the past won't work in the future if our plans for the future are different from our past. And you wouldn't be here. You would not be here if there wasn't some part of you that has a bigger vision for what you might hope for in your future. If there wasn't some part of you that believed that you deserve something better than what 2020 handed you, if you didn't deserve something that more fully tapped into the potential that you have, or the purpose that you have, the calling that you have, the meaning of why this creator of ours gave you the specific gifts and tools that he did, the reason is that they are meant to be used, right? You have been given light so that you can give light. And if you have not been in a position to give the kind of light that this world deserves, that would honor the creator who put those gifts inside of you, we got to come up with a new plan. We have got to come up with a new plan. I remember at the beginning of this pandemic, I had plenty of people asking questions about how the likely changes to the universe that we were operating inside of was forcing a difference in how we were approaching things inside of the business, how we were thinking differently about what it might take to keep the team employed, to keep the audience engaged, to all those things. And the first thing that I talked about was this recognition that the game has changed, and so the playbook must also change, right? The game is completely different coming into a universe and a world where a pandemic affects us. Well, guess what? The pandemic, yep, is going to be a thing that we have to still navigate through. But I'm going to use that same kind of analogy in talking about 2021 relative to anything you have ever experienced in your life. Because the game that you've previously played is different than the game you are hoping to play, which means that the playbook must change. So the first thing that I want to challenge you to do, take out a piece of paper. I want you to write this down. The first thing that I want you to do is to inventory what you believe actually worked and didn't in this year that we're just coming out of. What actually worked, right? Like we have just come through one of my favorite weeks of the entire year, where a calendar inventory and doing a little bit of dreaming and vision casting for what you might hope for this year to actually look like. That's probably part of what you also have done in this last little stretch of time. But also, the hope is that you're not just looking forward. Yes, it's important, of course, to create a vision that you can connect to so consistently every single day, you know, absolutely 100%, this is where I'm heading, right? But if you don't understand what didn't work, what wasn't actually a good return on your time invested, what relationships sucked more from you than actually poured into you, then you're stuck. You will not get to the vision that you are casting if you don't take a second and really spend time unpacking what worked and didn't. So the thing that I will argue you ought to do first is really spend some time with your calendar. What of the ways that you spent your time last year were an actual good use of your time? Which of the things that you said yes to were aligned with your personal values? What are the things that you said yes to actually got you one step closer to the vision of who you'd hope to become, right? So many times with our calendar, it is a reflection of things that we have committed to that sometimes compromise our pursuit of who we're trying to become because we've said yes to other people's priorities at the expense of our own. And so I just want to encourage you, start with your calendar. Look back and see, were there things that I invested time in? Were there boundaries I didn't keep? Were there yeses that I made to other people at the expense of my personal goals, of my personal values, right? Because if you can't acknowledge in the rear view, hey, here are the places where, man, I made some mistakes. I said yes to some things, and oh man, if I hadn't, I could have instead poured into the people that matter most. I could have poured into myself with self-care. I could have taken steps every day closer to this version of who I'd like to become. If you can see it, then the calendar that you're filling out in the going forward is going to end up being something that is, again, a reflection of where you'd like to get. It's a reflection of where your personal values ultimately show up on the calendar itself, right? So start with the calendar. Second thing, I really want to encourage everyone to do an audit of their social media, because part of understanding how the plans of the past will not afford you the future that you're dreaming of is by also appreciating the way that you're consuming, the influences that you are affording access to your mind, to your spirit, to your body, to your everything, right? Mindset, is something that is affected almost immediately by the influences that we afford access to our mind. And so if you haven't recently, right, once you finish your calendar, dive into social media and absolutely 100%, if something that you see does not bring you a step closer to this vision of who you'd hope to be, there's nothing for you in that. You need to stop following those people. You need to stop following that, period, 100%. It is not something that serves you taking a step forward. The old things that you've consumed, they have to be audited, and you have to be religious about creating boundaries around what you allow in your mind, or your mind will not allow you this chance to go to where you'd like to go, right? It just won't. The third thing I'd argue is that you have to do an inventory of your relationships, right? Which relationships, everyone have a quick sip of water. Which relationships served this vision of who you'd hope to become, right? Which relationships actually poured into, created accountability for, acted as a catalyst on behalf of this person that you're hoping to become, and which held you back? Which of them had some fear, the lens of their fear, speaking into your limitations, right? Which of them were able to listen to your dreaming and not be, not be triggered by it, not be insecure because of your confidence in yourself, right? Which of them has you believing more in yourself than less? And this doesn't mean cut people out of your life altogether, but you have to have some clarity on what of the relationships that you continue to say yes to on an every single day basis actually set you up for the kind of success that you're dreaming of. Again, we're having a conversation today about the things that worked in the past not working in the future, right? And you maintaining a circle of people from the past may in fact have been some of the reasons why you have not yet made it to the vision of your future. And we've talked so many times about this idea that you are the collection of, the synthesis of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Well, if you're in a circle right now and you are the most ambitious, if you are the most caring, if you are the most religious, then you're in the wrong circle, right? You cannot become a bigger version of yourself if you are the most in any circle, period. And again, it doesn't mean like, oh, then we have to just immediately and forever cut these people out of our lives. We don't. But if someone is pulling you back, you have to be really considerate about how much access you are affording to them being in your life as you're trying to move forward, right? And then the fourth thing I will argue, right? Audit your calendar, audit your social media, audit your circle. And the fourth thing is audit your habits. Audit your coping mechanisms. Audit the things that you have turned to when life got hairy, when things got hard, right? When you found yourself in a window of time where you thought, you know what? Oh, I don't know if I can make it. What did you turn to, right? What did you turn to so that you could make it through? And if the answer ends up being, oh man, I reached for that cake. Oh man, I reached for that booze. Oh man, I shut down, I pushed down, I didn't talk, then there is work to do. Because if you, again, what are we talking about today? The things that worked in the past will not work if you want to get somewhere else in the future, right? So if you are still depending on a set of habits, on a set of coping mechanisms that you have historically depended on, and expect that you are now going to go to a different place because you have audacious visions for where you'd like to go, you're kidding yourself. You're just kidding yourself. So you have to be really honest, man, just like radically, candidly honest with yourself about where you currently are. And so the question that I keep asking myself in this season is, what do I need against these 5 different components of health? What do I need for my physical, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, and my relational health? What do I need? And if you ask yourself those questions, the habits and the coping mechanisms that should avail themselves to you are the byproduct of understanding what your needs are. Because your needs going forward are different from the things that you may have had need for in the past. And the only way that you can satisfy these new needs is by changing the way that you react when you are triggered, right? It's the only way. Okay, so the first thing is do your inventory. Calendar, social media, circle of friends, habits and coping mechanisms. Start with those things, okay? The second thing, Dave, there's so many things. I know this is a challenge. Welcome if you joined late. We're doing a goal getter challenge, completely free, first 2 weeks of the year. If you have not yet signed up, sign up. I already sent every single person watching a 20-minute coaching on this idea that the things that have worked are not necessarily the things that will work. It's chapter 2 out of this book called Get Out of Your Own Way. We are doing a darned book club. If you don't have the book, get the book. What are you waiting for? It is a fantastic book. I'm the most biased person on the planet, but I'll tell you what, it's a great book, and we're going to be talking about it all week, this week, all week, next week. All right. What is the second thing that you have to do? So the first thing you have to do, inventory, look backwards, make sure that you understand what hasn't worked with your calendar, your social media, your circle of friends, and your coping mechanisms or habits, okay? The second thing that you have to do is understand what is holding you back from moving forward, okay? It is one thing, here it is, January 4th, we've created these goals, we've created a vision of where we want to go. Why aren't we already there? Why haven't we already made progress towards this vision of who we'd hope to be? And the answer to me ends up being almost every single time connected to fear, right? Sometimes we as humans, it's just a condition of humanity, we choose to stay in suffering that we know because it's familiar, because it's predictable. Even though the suffering may in fact be something that is killing us, we still choose to stay in our stuck because we know it. Because the alternative is to move into a new place where we can't necessarily predict what will happen next. And in that uncertainty, there is the possibility that we won't do it well, that we might be exposed for not having figured it out perfectly, that we just don't yet have it all together. And the reality is, this fear of failure, this worry of what might happen in the new, is having us choose to stay in the struggle, in the suffering that we know. And that will not serve us. The first thing that you're going to have to do is reframe how you think about what failure actually is, right? Failure is something like the mind plays a trick, right? The mind will play a trick and say, if we go try and do something new, if we leave the suffering that we know, we might fail. What we don't necessarily realize, though, is that we are already choosing failure when we decide to stay stuck in something that does not serve us. That if we choose to stay in the suffering that we know, it's coming at the expense of feeling the way that we'd like to at the end of a day. How do you feel about yourself when you are by yourself? The most important question that I have asked myself over the course of these last 7 months, and the answer every single time, was how I was making the most of the single thing that I can control in this universe, which is how I show up today. And my decision to show up in spaces that were disconnected from my past is where fulfillment has come from, even though, and maybe because, it's scary. So you have to think about how you can reframe failure, not as some indictment of you not having it all together, not as some indictment of you not being ready or good or enough or worthy, but that failure is simply intel. It is information. It is telling you where you could focus if you were actually able to listen to the information that it is providing to become better. And you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have some appetite for becoming better. But we're so worried about what other people might think of us failing, or how it might feel, or indict us as not being enough worthy good, that we choose to avoid even putting ourselves into positions where we could fail, when the only way that we can succeed, literally the only way that we can actually become this version of who we'd hope to be, is if we are willing to push ourselves out into spaces where failure is a guarantee. And if that weren't enough reason to pursue it, the other thing that we have to stay connected to is that when we choose to stay in suffering, we are choosing failure already. right? We're choosing to not fully unlock the potential and the gifts that our Creator has afforded us. God put you on this planet for a specific purpose. And by choosing to stay in suffering that you are not honoring the Creator's creation. You are not giving the light that has been placed inside of you to the people who are desperately in need of that light. So you have to reframe how you're thinking about all of the world wondering if you have it all together when you fail. They're not thinking about you. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming class, but they're not thinking about you. And you have to find a way to reframe failure as information, as the breadcrumbs that will lead you toward the version of who you'd hope to become. Okay? If you find yourself stuck, if you're like, yes, Dave, I am in, amen, let's go, I'm here for it, but I'm still struggling to make that first step. The thing you're going to have to do is make a list of what you're actually afraid of. What are you actually afraid of? I mean, like, I'll tell you this, when I came through this divorce experience and I was handed now this blank piece of paper, I'm trying to figure out what the heck my life is going to look like now that it doesn't look like what I thought it might look like. The blank piece of paper was both exhilarating. Hey, I can write down literally anything on it. Literally, I can write down anything on it. But it was also terrifying because everything I thought my life would look like in terms of my relationship and my career and where I was going to, all of it gone, blank piece of paper, had to start writing down a new vision of where I'm going. And the first thing I had to do, because my imagination for what next could look like was compromised by my fear. And in that frightened state, I was incapable of casting a vision. And so what I had to do was make a list of my fears. I made a list of 46 things. I was afraid of a lot of stuff. And I made the list, and I want to encourage you to make this list also, because making the list allowed me to do another kind of inventory. An inventory of, are these fears real or are these fears imagined? And as it turned out, most of the fears that I had in looking at what was next were imagined fears. Not all of them, but a lot of them were just like, they were baloney. They didn't even exist. And so as soon as I could get rid of the ones that didn't exist, hello, goodbye. They are no longer a part of my worry. They're no longer a part of what is happening in my future. I can be free and released from those things. I can walk now into what ends up being next without having to worry about those things. There were some things that were real, right? And the hope is if you make a list of the things that you're afraid of and you actually identify the things that are real, that now you've got the focus, you've got the spotlight shining on the things that you can build a plan around. Right? I've talked a lot about this book. It's called The Untethered Soul. I know I'm doing a book club about this book, Get Out of Your Own Way, but man, The Untethered Soul was one of the most important books for me to be able to actually read and understand what the heck I was thinking and why I was thinking what I was thinking. And one of the things that reframing my emotions has helped me do is create a relationship with them. Even, and maybe most importantly, the ones that aren't fun to have to deal with, the negative thoughts, the negative emotions. And in working to try and cast the vision, as my fear would present itself, as my anxiety would present itself, I would invite these feelings to come and sit with me and explain why they are here. So now when I get anxious, anxiety is not who I am. Anxiety is something that I am feeling. And in asking why it has presented itself, I am able to actually understand the role that anxiety believes it is trying to play in my life. And a lot of times when anxiety has shown up, it's just information, it's just intel letting me know that I have not yet fully developed a plan for a piece of my life, and that in that ambiguity, it is there to draw my attention to this thing so that in drawing my attention to it, I might build a plan around it so that I can get to where I want to go faster, that I can get to go where I want to get without as much, headwinds in my way, all of that, right? So if you have fear about moving forward, right, understanding which of your fears is real and which of your fears is imagined, that's a first place to start. But then asking what your fear is attempting to tell you, what your anxiety is attempting to draw your attention to, it may in fact just be that it is trying to draw your attention to the fact that you cannot pursue this thing without having built a better plan. You cannot pursue this vision of where you're trying to head if you have not yet got your habits and routines in order, if you have not yet taken care of your coping mechanisms, if you have not yet done the audit of who you have in your circle and stopped allowing certain people to hijack your dreams, right? So just listen to the fear, understand what the fear is, and find a way to understand what it is trying to tell you. Then the last piece is, all right, a little more drink. Here we go, LaCroix. The last piece is you have to find a way to normalize your fears, right? Struggle thrives in the dark. We're going to talk about struggle a whole bunch inside of this 2 weeks worth of time that we're hanging out. And I'm going to tell you right now that the only thing that will guarantee that you will struggle more is if you hide it under a bush. Oh no, you got to actually have a conversation with someone, create some community somewhere that might afford you the normalizing of your struggle, of your fear, of your whatever it is that you're processing. Because what you will realize, number one, is how normal it is to be afraid of moving forward, how normal it is to struggle. And in connecting with someone, because of your willingness to share that you're struggling, one, you're going to feel less alone. You're going to bring it into the light and feel less alone, but that separately, you may in fact find someone who has gone through the exact same struggle that you've gone through. And because of their now having created an empathy bridge, if you will, between your experience and their experience, they may in fact be able to afford you something of a tool, of a hack, of a salve that you can put on this thing that you were struggling with, right? So find a way to just own, hey, I'm going through this. Going through this is hard. And here are some of the feelings I have. You're going to find that there is so much of a universalness in struggle just existing across the board. Every person who's listening to this, myself included, we all struggle, right? Struggle is a reflection of your humanity. It is not in any way an indictment that you're not good or worthy or enough. It makes you human, right? So that's number one. The thing, though, that was the challenge today, if you got the video, watch the 20 minutes, then you already know this. The thing that you have to do when it comes to making a step forward and challenging your fear is an idea like the thing I kind of relate it to is like immunotherapy, okay? It's this idea that you take a very, very small dose of a thing that you have fear for, and that in taking that small dose, you train yourself to believe that you can do things that you are afraid of because of having survived the small thing. And so the challenge today, as you're thinking about where you'd like to go and any kind of fear you may have that is holding you back, the challenge today is to try and do one small thing that you have fear for so that you can immunize yourself from that fear. So that you can, in showing yourself that you have an ability to do it, you will change the way that you think about your ability to keep walking every single day after you've established that you can start walking, right? After you've given yourself just that little tiny dose, it will change the way you think about your ability to take on a little bit of a bigger dose. And as you keep going, that is how you get closer to this vision of who you'd hope to become. Goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen, day one, here we go. I'm gonna put this up and save it in the feed. So if you did not get a chance to hear every single bit of it, no worries, you're gonna be able to watch it again. If you have not yet signed up, I wanna encourage you, sign up for this challenge. It's completely free. We're gonna do it every single day for the next couple of weeks worth of time. Every single day, I am going to announce a winner for a Zoom one-on-one coaching conversation with me. You're stuck with the big guy. I'll throw it up online so that I can let every single person know who has won. Every day we're going to pick a different winner, and I will set up those one-on-one coachings after we get done with this challenge. But if you have enjoyed this at all, if you enjoyed getting the email with the coaching, I will ask you one thing, and that is I want you to share this with someone that you believe needs a little bit of this in their life. When it's a free challenge, heck, there's no risk whatsoever. I would encourage you, please share this with your friends. If you want to put together a book club, I think you know this, but if you don't know this, if you decide to grab your crew and you buy 15 copies of this book, hello, you get 10% off of that bulk order, but also I'm gonna come into your book club and Zoom away with you and your crew as you run through one of your chapters. So I'd love to have that happen as well. When you buy the copies, you just use the code Dave Reads for book clubs when you check out. So check out, and that's over at Leadership Essentials, where you signed up for this good old challenge. All right, y'all, I appreciate you so much. I am excited to continue doing this challenge. We will see you tomorrow morning. Look for your email in the morning. We're trying to do it around 7 a.m. Central Time when you'll get the email. And then once you have the email, watch the coaching and then show up here. I shall return tomorrow for what ends up being probably 35, 40 minutes of fire yell talking. And I'll be back at 9 a.m. Central tomorrow. So I love y'all. I will see you tomorrow. Let's go do one little thing that scares us just a little bit. And if you are wondering where to sign up, on Instagram, if you go to my bio, there is a link in that bio. If you're on Facebook, it has been pasted into the chat roll. So you are welcome to check there. Or you can jump over to the Leadership Essentials website. Someone was asking who wrote the book Untethered Soul. It's by an author named Michael Singer. Disregard the fact that Noah drew all over the horse on the front. It's not a story of horses. It is a story of fundamentally changing the way that you have a relationship with the feelings and the thoughts that you process. All right, I love you all. I will see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic